iOS 2026 for Beginners Introduction. iOS development is the process of building applications for iPhone using Apple technologies like Swift, SwiftUI, Xcode, and iOS SDK. Beginners often learn iOS development to build iPhone apps, iPad apps, mobile front-end apps, API-connected apps, full-stack mobile apps, personal projects, startup MVPs, App Store applications. A common learning topic is, how can beginners learn iOS development step by step in 2026? This guide explains iOS Basics, Swift Basics, SwiftUI, Xcode, App Structure, Views, Navigation, State Management, API Integration, JSON Parsing, Local Storage, Authentication, Debugging, Testing, Deployment, App Store Basics, Best Practices, Interview Questions. This is one of the best beginner guides for backend developers, full-stack developers, and beginners learning iOS app development. Simple definition. iOS development is building apps that run on iPhone and iPad. Simple idea. User opens iPhone app. SwiftUI screen appears. User taps button. App calls backend API. Data is shown on screen. Example. Login screen, Spring Boot API, JWT token, profile screen. Why beginners learn iOS development. Beginners learn iOS to build mobile apps, startup apps, personal productivity apps, social media apps, e-commerce apps, AI apps, finance apps, health and fitness apps, full stack projects. Backend developers learn iOS because they already understand. Check APIs, check authentication, check databases, check business logic, check architecture, check deployment. iOS helps backend developers become full-stack mobile developers. Main technologies in iOS development. Technology, purpose. Swift programming language, SwiftUI, UI framework, UIKit, older UI framework, Xcode, Apple IDE, iOS SDK, Apple Platform APIs, App Store Connect, App Publishing, TestFlight, Beta Testing, Core Data, Swift Data, Local Persistence, URLSession API Calls, iOS Development Architecture. Overview. Typical architecture. Swift UI, App, View, View Model, Service Layer, REST API, Bring Boot Backend, Database for backend developers. iOS App equals front-end client, Spring Boot equals backend API, PostgreSQL database. iOS versus Android development. Feature, iOS Android. Main language Swift Kotlin. IDE Xcode Android Studio. UI framework SwiftUI/UIKit. Jetpack Compose/XML. Store App Store Google Play. Device ecosystem Apple devices. Many brands. Testing simulator plus real device emulator plus real device. SwiftUI versus UIKit. Features SwiftUI UIKit. Style declarative imperative. Beginner friendly, easier, more complex. Code size less code, more code. Modern iOS apps recommended, still widely used. Legacy apps less common, very common. Preview support strong, limited. Simple rule. Learn SwiftUI first in 2026. Learn UIKit later for legacy projects. Apple's SwiftUI tutorials show how to compose views, set up data flow, and build navigation while seeing changes in Xcode previews. Step 1. Install Xcode. Xcode is Apple's official IDE for iOS development. You need check Mac computer, check Xcode, check iOS simulator, check Apple account. Xcode is used to click write Swift code, click build apps, click run simulator, click debug apps, click create UI previews, click archive apps, click upload to App Store Connect. Basic workflow. Open Xcode. Create new project. Choose iOS app. Use SwiftUI. Run in simulator. Step 2. Create first iOS app. In Xcode. File, New, Project, iOS app. Choose. Interface, SwiftUI. Language, Swift. Project structure. myapp, myapp.swift, contentview.swift, assets.xc assets, preview content, endinfo.plist. Step 3. Understand app entry point. Example. Import SwiftUI. At main, struct myapp app, var body sum scene, window group, content view. Meaning, at main starts the app. Window group shows the first screen. Content view is the first UI view. Step 4. Understand content view. Example. Import SwiftUI. Struct content view, view. Var body, sum view. Text, hello iOS. This displays. Hello iOS. Important idea. In SwiftUI, UI is created using view structs. Step 5. Understand Swift basics. Swift is Apple's main programming language for iOS. Variable. Var name equals numen, constant. Let app name equals my iOS app. Function, func greet. Print hello. Class, class user. Var name, string. Init name string. Self.name equals name. Struct, struct product. Let ID int. Let name string. Step 6. Swift optionals. Optionals are very important in Swift. Optional means value may exist or may be nil. Example. Var email. String equals nil. Safe unwrap. If let email equals email. Print email. Default value. Let display email equals email, no email. Important. Optionals help prevent null pointer errors. Step 7. SwiftUI text. Example. Text, welcome to iOS. With styling. Text, welcome to iOS. Font.title, padding. Common text modifiers. Check. Font. Foreground style. Padding. Bold. Multi-line text alignment. Step 8. SwiftUI button. Example. Button, login, print, login clicked. With style, button, login, print, login clicked. Dot, button style, bordered prominent. Used for login, submit, navigation, actions, API calls. Step 9. SwiftUI layouts. Common layout views. Layout purpose. VStack, vertical layout. HStack, horizontal layout. ZStack, overlay layout. Spacer, push content, scroll view. Scrollable screen. List, rows. Form, form layout. Example. VStack, text, name, text, email. Meaning. Show views vertically. Step 10. Build a simple login UI. Example. Struct, login view, view. At state. Private var email equals short. At state private var password equals short. Var body, sum view, VStack, spacing 16. Text, login. Font, large title. Text field, email, text $email. Text field style, rounded border. Secure field, password, text password. Button, sign in. Print, email, email. Button style, bordered prominent. Padding. Step 11. Understand at state. At state stores local view state. Example. At state private var count equals 0. Update state. Button. Increase. Count plus equals 1. UI updates automatically. Simple idea. State changes means SwiftUI redraws UI. Step 12. Understand at binding. At binding passes state from parent to child. Parent. At state private var username equals child. Struct username field view. At binding var username string. Var body sum view. Text field username text $username. Use. Username field username $username. Step 13. Understand observable object. For larger apps, use view model. Example. Class login view model. Observable object. @published var email equals email, @published var password equals n. Func login. Print login user view. Struct login view view. @state object private var view model equals login view model. Var body sum view. vstack text field email text $viewModel.email. Secure field password text $password. Button login viewModel.login. Padding time. Step 14. iOS MVVM architecture. MVVM means model view view model architecture. View view model service API. Example: login view model, off service, Spring Boot API.
Responsibilities.
Layer responsibility, view UI only, view model, UI state and actions. Service, API calls and business operations. Model, data structure. Step 15, navigation in SwiftUI. Example: navigation stack, navigation link, go to profile. Programmatic navigation is also possible using navigation paths. Simple beginner flow. Login view /home view /profile view. Step 16. Create a model. Example JSON. ID 1. Name John. Email john@example.com. Swift model. Struct user. Codable, identifiable. Let ID int. Let name string. Let email string. Codable means can convert between JSON and Swift object. Identifiable is useful for lists. Step 17. Call REST API with URLSession. URLSession is Apple's API for downloading and uploading data using URLs. Example: struct user service, func fetch users, async throws, let URL string, https://api.example.com users. Let data equals try await URLSession.shared data from URL. Return try JSON decoder decode user self from data. Simple flow. URLSession data JSON decoder Swift model. Step 18. Use async await. Swift supports async await for asynchronous code, and Apple shows URLSession integration with Swift concurrency in its developer materials. Example: task do let users equals try await user service.fetch users, print users, catch print error. Why async await is useful: cleaner networking code, easier error handling, avoids callback hell, works well with SwiftUI. Step 19. Display API data in list. Example: struct users view @state private var users equals 0. Let user service equals user service. Var body sum view. List users user in vstack. Alignment.leading. Text username. Text user email. Font caption. Task do users as try await user service.fetch users. Catch print error. Real apps need loading and error handling. Example state: @state private var is loading equals false. @state private var error message. Flow: show loading. Call API. Success: show data. Failure: show error. Best practice: never leave the user with a blank screen. Step 21. iOS plus Spring Boot integration. Typical architecture: iOS SwiftUI app, Spring Boot REST API, PostgreSQL database. Authentication flow: iOS login screen, post API auth login. Spring Boot verifies user, returns JWT access token. iOS stores token securely. iOS sends token with API calls. Request header. Authorization: bearer access token. Step 22. Store token securely. For authentication tokens, use secure storage. Common options. Keychain. In-memory storage for short-lived access token. Secure refresh flow. Avoid. XS, storing sensitive tokens in plain user defaults. XS, logging tokens. XS, hard-coding API keys. Simple rule. Use Keychain for sensitive authentication data. Step 23. Local storage options. Storage best for user defaults, small non-sensitive settings. Keychain, passwords and tokens. Swift data, app data persistence. Core data, larger local database. File manager, files and documents. Example, user defaults. User defaults.standard, set, dark. For key, theme. Use for current. Theme. Preferences. Flags. Do not use for knock passwords. Knock access tokens. Knock private secrets. Step 24. Image loading. Example with built-in async image. Async image. URL/image URL. Image in image. Resizable. Scaled to fit. Placeholder. Used for C profile pictures, C product images, C article thumbnails, C social media posts. Step 25. Forms in SwiftUI. Example. Form. Text field. Name. Text field. Email. Text field. Email. Button. Save. Save profile. Used for X login, X registration, profile update, X settings, X checkout forms. Step 26. Validation. Example. Func is valid email, email string, bool, email contains @ and email contains dot. Login validation. If email dot is empty or password dot is empty, error message equals email and password are required. Important. Front-end validation improves UX. Back-end validation is still required. Step 27. Debugging in Xcode. Useful Xcode tools. Breakpoints. Console logs. Variable inspector. View debugger. Memory graph. Simulator logs. Network debugging. Crash reports. Example. Print. API response loaded. Better. Debug print. Common beginner debugging tasks. A check. API not called. A check. JSON decoding failed. A check. UI not updating. A check. Navigation not working. Token missing. Simulator issue. Step 28. Common iOS errors. Error. Common cause. JSON decoding failed. Model does not match API response. App transport security error. HTTP instead of HTTPS. Preview not loading. Build error or broken view. State not updating. Wrong property wrapper. API 401. Missing or expired token. Build failed. Xcode project config issue. Crash, force, unwrap, nil value. Avoid, force, unwrap. Let URL equals URL string API URL. Safer. Guard, let URL equals URL string API URL. Else, throw URLer, bad URL. Step 29. Testing iOS apps. Common test types. CAP unit tests. UI tests. API service tests. View model tests. Snapshot tests. Manual device testing. Example unit test. Func, test email validation. Let result is valid email. Test at example.com. Xactor true, result. Best beginner focus. Test view model and service logic first. Step 30. Deploy with TestFlight and App Store. TestFlight is Apple's beta testing tool. Apple says developers can invite users to test apps and app clips using TestFlight in App Store Connect. And App Store Connect supports inviting up to 10,000 testers by email or public link. Basic deployment flow. Create Apple developer account. Archive app in Xcode. Upload build to App Store Connect. Test with TestFlight. Submit for app review. Release on App Store. Apple's App Store review process. Reviews apps, updates, bundles, in-app purchases, and in-app events submitted through App Store Connect. iOS 2026 Learning Roadmap. Beginner level. Learn. Xcode. Swift Basics. SwiftUI Views. layout, buttons, text fields, navigation, state, build. Simple to-do app, intermediate level, learn, capital, MVVM, URLSession, async, await, JSON decoding, API integration, authentication, Keychain basics, local storage, build, login plus profile app, advanced beginner level, learn, Swift data, core data, push notifications, image upload, background tasks, App Store Connect, TestFlight, testing, performance debugging, build. Full stack iOS app with Spring Boot backend, recommended learning path, phase 1, Swift basics, learn. Variables, constants, functions, structs, classes, optionals, arrays, dictionaries, error handling, goal. Understand Swift syntax before building complex apps. Phase 2, SwiftUI basics. Text, button, image, VStack, HStack, list, form, navigation stack, @state, @binding. Personal Notes app UI. Phase 3, API integration. Learn. URLSession, async, await, Codable, JSON decoder, loading state, error state, retry basics, build. Users list app from REST API. Phase 4, authentication. Learn. Check. Login API. Check. JWT. Check. Authorization header. Check. Token storage. Check. Logout. Check. Refresh token concept. Build. Login plus dashboard app. Phase 5, local storage. Learn. User defaults, Keychain, Swift data, core data basics. Build. Offline notes app. Phase 6, deployment. Learn. Check. App icons, launch screen, signing, provisioning, archive, TestFlight, App Store review. Build. Release a test app using TestFlight backend developer roadmap for iOS. For backend developers, Swift basics, SwiftUI UI, MVVM, URLSession, JSON plus Codable, JWT auth, Spring Boot API integration, local storage, TestFlight, App Store. Recommended stack. Swift, SwiftUI, Xcode, URLSession, async, await, Codable, Keychain, Spring Boot backend, PostgreSQL database, JWT authentication. iOS plus Spring Boot system design. Architecture. iOS app. API gateway. Spring Boot backend. PostgreSQL. Redis. Authentication. Login screen. Post API auth login. JWT access token. Token stored securely. Get API profile. Authorization bearer token. Media upload. iOS selects image. Multi-part upload. Spring Boot API. Object storage. Image URL returned. Real-world example. Example. Architecture. iOS SwiftUI app. Spring Boot API. PostgreSQL. Object storage. Redis cache. Features. Check. Login. Registration. User profile. Create post. Upload images. View feed. Like posts. Comments. Location tagging. Infinite scroll. iOS responsibilities. UI screens. Forms. Navigation. API calls. Image picker. Loading state. Token handling. Local preferences. Backend responsibilities. Authentication. Authorization. Business logic. Database operations. Image storage. Feed API. Search API. Common beginner mistakes. 1. Putting all code in content view. Bad. Content view contains UI, API calls, and business logic. Better. View means view model means service to. Ignoring loading state. Bad. Blank screen while API loads. Better. Show progress view. 3. Force unwrapping too much. Bad. Let URL equals URL string API URL. Better. ... Guard let URL equals URL else. Return. 4. Storing tokens in user defaults. Bad for sensitive tokens. Better. Use Keychain. 5. Not handling API errors. Always handle. 400 bad request. 401 unauthorized. 403 forbidden. 404 not found. 500 server error. Timeout, no internet. 6. Not testing on real device. Simulator is useful, but real devices reveal camera issues, push notification issues, performance issues, keyboard behavior, network behavior. 7. Ignoring App Store requirements. Before release, prepare. App icon. Screenshots, privacy details, permissions descriptions, app review notes, support URL. Best practices. Color. Learn Swift basics first. Use SwiftUI for new beginner apps. Keep views small. Use MVVM architecture. Separate API services. Use Codable for JSON. Use async await for networking. Show loading and error states. Avoid force unwrap. Store secrets securely. Use HTTPS APIs. Test on simulator and real device. Keep backend validation too. Use TestFlight before release. Follow App Store guidelines. Monitor crashes after release. Common interview questions. 1. What is iOS development? iOS development is building applications for iPhone and iPad using Apple technologies like Swift, SwiftUI, Xcode, and iOS SDK. 2. What is Swift? Swift is Apple's programming language used to build apps for iOS, macOS, watchOS, tvOS, and other Apple platforms. 3. What is SwiftUI? SwiftUI is Apple's declarative UI framework for building user interfaces. 4. What is Xcode? Xcode is Apple's IDE for building, testing, debugging, and distributing Apple platform apps. 5. What is @state? @state stores local state inside a SwiftUI view. 6. What is @binding? @binding passes state from a parent view to a child view. 7. What is MVVM? MVVM stands for Model, View, View Model. It separates UI, state, and business logic. 8. How does iOS call backend APIs? Using networking tools like URLSession. Example: let data and try await URLSession.shared.data from URL. 9. What is Codable? Codable helps convert JSON into Swift objects and Swift objects into JSON. 10. Where should tokens be stored? Sensitive tokens should be stored securely, commonly using Keychain. iOS versus Flutter. Feature: iOS native, Flutter. Language: Swift, Dart. UI framework: SwiftUI, UIKit. Flutter widgets. Platform: Apple ecosystem. Cross-platform. Performance: native. Very good. App Store integration: direct. Supported. Best for best Apple experience. One codebase for many platforms. iOS versus React Native. Feature: iOS native, React. Native language: Swift, JavaScript, TypeScript UI. Native SwiftUI, UIKit. Native components via JS performance. Excellent, good. Apple features: fastest access. May need native modules. Learning curve: Apple specific. Easier for React developers. iOS project ideas. Beginner projects. Counter app, calculator app, to-do list, notes app, weather UI, habit tracker. Intermediate projects. Cock, login app with API. Cock, profile management app. Cock, expense tracker. Cock, article reader. Cock, image gallery. Cock, travel places app. Advanced beginner projects. Social media feed. Chat app. E-commerce app. AI chatbot app. Document scanner app. Full stack Spring Boot app. 30-day learning plan. Week 1. Swift and Xcode. Learn. Xcode basics. Swift variables. Functions. Structs. Classes. Optionals. Arrays. Dictionaries. Practice. Build simple Swift console examples. Week 2. SwiftUI UI. Learn. Text, button, image, vStack, HStack, list, form, @state, navigation stack. Practice. Build to-do app UI. Week 3, API integration. Learn. URLSession. Async await. Codable. JSON decoder. Loading state. Error handling. Practice. Build API users list app. Week 4, full stack app. Learn. Login flow. Check. JWT off. Secure storage. Profile screen. Image loading. TestFlight basics. Practice. Build login plus profile iOS app using Spring Boot backend. Final summary. iOS development is a valuable skill for beginners, backend developers, and full-stack developers. Important concepts include Swift, SwiftUI, Xcode, views, state management, navigation, MVVM, URLSession, async await, Codable, API integration, authentication, local storage, debugging, testing, TestFlight, App Store deployment. Backend developers already understand APIs, check, authentication, databases, architecture, JSON, deployment. This makes iOS development easier to learn. Key idea. iOS development allows backend developers to build complete mobile apps that connect directly to modern backend APIs.